Welcome back, loyal fight fans, to Boxing. Eat that shit up. I am your humble host, Tummy Tom O'Neill, the human body snatching, torso taking bad boy, and I am back at it. Please hit that subscribe button for us. Please smash that thumbs up button for us, and please tell a friend, especially if you know a friend who enjoys combat sports or boxing. They'd probably enjoy watching this. Now, that being said, I apologize for the delay in episodes. I've had a really busy week, a lot going on, and then beyond that, I did try to put this video out yesterday, and I was unable to do it. Tried actually several times, so it was a big waste of time. Also, as I always do, I take some meticulous notes on what I see in the fights. I give a round for round breakdown. Then what I did is I went ahead and I lost the notes. I just up and lost the notes, so I did this without the notes. I was quite proud of how it went, but it wasn't able to go through. Completely lost the video. It was a big shit show. But here we are, we're back, and the important thing is you guys do not have to go without the tummy tuck this week. So I'm going to do a quick little coverage recap on the fights that happened, and I think that will also fit in a bit of a preview for the fights at the weekend ahead. Also, a side note, not steering completely away from the UFC, but I think that I'm going to focus my time and effort really more on the boxing. And then what I'll do is when we have really big fights with the UFC, I'll kind of give its own episode for those big occasions. But other than that, we're pretty much going to cover boxing. So boxing, and then probably the big events of UFC, the really big fights that happen. But yeah, so let's get into the fights that happened this past weekend. Devin Haney taking on Ortiz Gamboa. Now, Devin Haney taking on an older yet seasoned veteran boxer in Ortiz Gamboa, but he is 38 years old now. He was a world champion, definitely had his heyday, and I'm still a big fan of his and watching him compete. But he definitely is on the other side of that hill, so to speak, in his career, and just kind of getting up there a bit in age for fighting sports. Devin Haney, but he's a fantastic boxer, Devin Haney coming in with all the hype in the world behind him. This kid's 21 years old, so he's one of the youngest champions ever. Might be the youngest lightweight champion ever. Not 100% on that. But yeah, he's one of the youngest champions ever. And he shows incredible talent. He's showing a lot as far as what we can reasonably expect from him, which is like at least very good. It's going to be at least very good, really. He's already shown us that. But some people kind of really on his bandwagon. Let's, I think, just slow down a little bit on that. Comparing him. It's easy to make some comparisons to Mayweather and his fighting style, being as he's a very defensively sound, very good distance managing kind of a fighter. But, yeah, I think we should slow it down a bit, because I'm a big believer, even the way that I make my pound for pound list for me, I'm a big believer in the number one thing that I put in front. Of course I look at, just like everybody does, but everybody has different orders for these things, right? Whether you know it or not, if you think about it, everybody places different levels of importance on these same kind of things. So one being, what we get to see from a fighter, when talking about the pound for pound, best in the sport today. You look for what you literally see in a fighter through their fights, right? So you look at their fighting style, how good they are at the style that they choose to put forward. You look at then another thing that you look at is you look at the level of competition that you see these fighters fighting and have already faced. That is what I put the most emphasis on when I talk about from my pound for pound list and just my personal opinion, that's what I put the most emphasis on. That's the most important thing to me personally, is who have they fought? How high has the level of competition been for them, and how consecutive, Then you look at wins, just good wins. So not just, not just the level of competition they fought, because that could mean that they put up great fights against the very best, right? If a guy put up a super close or very good fight where you could almost even give the fight, possibly to the guy in your own opinion, but he comes up short and the judges' scorecards, that counts for something for me. But then, of course, you look at just the wins that they have. So, for instance, Teofimo Lopez, he has probably the most impressive win of date in boxing when you talk about for one good win, and that's a big upset over Vasily Lomachenko. So, for instance, that is probably the most incredible win, right? Then I talk about, going behind that. That's one win, though, but it's highly incredible, right? And so then you look at, well, who are the other, if you have other fighters and they have good wins. So, for instance, just for me, Errol Spence, right? I put him above, Lopez in my pound for pound, because Lopez has that one incredible win, but Errol Spence has fought a lot of, guys at the very, very top of his division that are elite competition. He's fought many of those fights. And then just his last two fights that he had, victories in both of them, were one boxing Mikey Garcia and showing his boxing ability. So that's also his style of fight in that fight that he put forward. And then turning right around from that and showing great boxing ability to win a fight against a fantastic boxer in Mikey Garcia. He turns around and fights Sean Porter, the dog of all dogs, and has an absolute dog fight with him where he shows his heart and his grit and his chin and his willingness to brawl in there, and gets the W in that sense. So, he's higher on my list. So that being said, as far as Devin Haney goes, I think he's a fantastic boxer. And also, this is very important before anybody starts hating on me on the Devin Haney train. I like the kid. I'm just making a fair point, I think, that, sometimes you need to slow down on these things before we know. But that being said, I just, again, don't think that we know, right, with Devin Haney, where the ceiling is there. That is not saying that I think that he's given any reason at all to judge that his ceiling wouldn't be very high. I think it would be. But you just because we think something doesn't mean that that's what it's going to be. This was his biggest competition to date in Yuriorkis Gamboa. But this is not, when you look at the level of competition, this is an older guy. This is a guy who's, taken a lot of losses. He's coming off the Tank Davis loss, but he's very tough. He's a very tough out for anybody. And even if you get the win over him, a lot of times he makes his fights close and he has good moments in his fights. So there's a little bit of give and take in this fight. Anyways, before I get into the round-and-round breakdown here, which is real simple for this one, Devin Haney almost pitches a complete shutout against Yuriorkis Gamboa in their fight. He almost took every round, and here's the deal. Some people think he did take every round. If you thought he took every round, I have absolutely, not no argument, but I wouldn't even bother to make an argument against that. It's very reasonable to even give this kid every single round of this fight. Me personally, I did when I'm still, it's easy to get swept up in that though too, right? If a fight's, very good, it is dominant and we know that. So at that point, it's very easy to give rounds, to not really look closely at rounds and just say, yeah, he got them all, fuck it. But when I'm doing a legit round for round breakdown, I would score Gamboa for 2 out of 12 rounds. But again, that doesn't make a difference. So round one, Gamboa, comes in with some good body jabs, but Devin Haney's body jabs are fantastic. He seems to be able to cut that distance at will and fire those long reaching down jabs to the body. It's really fantastic. Another fighter that does this very well is Floyd Mayweather, of course. But yeah, Devin Haney has these good jabs. Gamboa has some as well. There's not too much going on, but when you're dealing with, very technical defensive fighters like Devin Haney, sometimes you get this in your first couple rounds. But anyways, I score 1 for Haney. Round 2, Gamboa has a little bit of a moment here in this round, but again, it's very short-lived. Devin Haney, again, controlling the fight. He's controlling the pace. It's a closer round in this second round, but I give that to Devin Haney as well. Third round, this was, to me, one of Devin Haney's best rounds. This and some of the later rounds, like the very last rounds, of course. But this was a really good round for Devin Haney. Haney, he's always getting back to controlling the pace. He won't let Gamboa work inside. Anytime Gamboa gets close to him, first off, he'll clinch him up in these beginning rounds. Then actually Gamboa will start to tire later and initiate the clinch there. But yeah, he'll initiate the clinch while Gamboa is still fresh with his power for these first couple rounds, anytime that he's close enough. Or if Gamboa lands anything or even misses, but he's able to get inside, he's getting clinched up. He won't let him work from inside. And now in this round, round 3, Devin Haney is also going from just being very good defensively, blocking and evading shots, to being able to see when and what shots Gamboa likes to throw, and he starts to pick up countering him here. On top of his own little body jabs, whatnot, he starts to actually counter Gamboa in this round. Oop, sorry about that. All right, and then round 4, this is not a good round for Gamboa. He can't get anything going for him here. It's a very tough round for him. Haney really likes the body jabs. He starts landing even a little bit of power shots now. Not many, but he goes from getting comfortable with what he's throwing round 3, then starts countering. Now round 4, he'll do a bit of that countering as well, but he'll put on a little bit of offense, even land some good, couple good power shots in this round. That's Devin Haney's round as well. And then round 5, I give this round to Gamboa, but again, this was a close round. But I think that Gamboa, he puts on some good exchanges here, where Devin Haney's not able to clinch him right away, or maybe wasn't trying to clinch him up right away finally. And it kind of makes it a little more dicey for Haney in this round, because he does get cracked a couple times, even though Devin Haney actually wins some of these exchanges too. If he did choose to stand in exchange with him, he definitely wins some of these exchanges as well. But this is a close round, just flat out. It's kind of a pick 'em, and I went with Gamboa for this round. The 6th round, I think this is a good Gamboa round. Some good counter lefts from Gamboa in this round. He has a good hook as well, good right hook at towards the end of the round. Haney has a harder time in this round, just stopping Gamboa kind of from like bullying him, a bit. And I give this round to Gamboa, and I didn't think this one was as close. I kind of think that I would even bend on saying, yeah, that round 5 is so close, you could give that either way, even though I scored it for Gamboa. This 6th round, I think it should be Gamboa's, but you can make the argument that that's maybe the only round that he deserved to win. Then it just starts getting worse from him here. Round 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 is all for Devin Haney. The 7th round, Devin Haney starts picking up on his movement a bit, kind of gets going, falls into the 8th round, then he's doing well. He never really truly hurts Gamboa, never mind it, he doesn't drop him. He never really has a moment where he hurts Gamboa, but he just owns the whole fight with like crisp boxing. So again, it's a half and half. here's the deal on what I think. Then he keeps picking up. It gets worse and worse, and he starts running away with the fight. Just technically. And he wins extremely handedly. Like I said, some people think he won every single round of the fight. I'm not super opposed to that. Devin Haney's an incredible boxer. But here's what I was kind of going to get to is that, again, on how it's kind of a half and half situation for me, the way I look at it. And for what people are saying, online, what people talk about, they're either kind of just all over Devin Haney, he walks on water and he's the greatest thing. He's going to be better than Mayweather the guy hasn't, I think he's fantastic, but the guy hasn't fought anybody yet for God's sakes. So, it's either that with people or they just completely opposite, like they take it the other way and they hate on him when he's incredibly talented. And we do already know that. We've seen enough to know that. And we've seen enough that we don't know if he's going to get wins over the best guys in his division, but I'll tell you, he's going to be a problem for anybody. Let's say he did fight Teofimo Lopez. Me personally, I would, who knows what would happen, but I would tend to favor, Lopez in that fight, right? Just with the power, and he has a really good jab, and Haney doesn't get caught much at all, but he does sometimes get caught with the jab. When you are quick enough, like Lopez, to put the jab and the straight right behind it, it could cause him a lot of trouble. But here's the deal: is that people, either just think one of these guys will knock him out. Who knows if he'd win or lose, but I guarantee if he loses to any of these guys, Lopez, Tank, anybody, that he's not going to make it easy, and he's going to take rounds away from these guys, and he's going to be very competitive in the fight. I think we have already seen enough of that. So it's either like people just hate on him, or they're taking it kind of way too far too soon. But with me, I try to live in that gray area, in a lot of aspects in life, really, but especially then talking about fighting, when I think about fighters and when I'm making pound for pound lists, when I'm judging a fight, looking at it, no matter what it is, I like to live in that gray area where I think reality really is, as far as we know it and understand it. So there's unknowns, there's variables, because we haven't seen Devin Haney, really tested yet by a very elite talent, kind of like himself or similar to himself. But this was a great performance, right? So this was a fantastic performance. He almost gets a shutout here against Gamboa, who is a tough opponent. He is. And even if, Gamboa's going to take these losses these days and at his age to these really great guys like Haney and Tank and so on and so forth, he's always a tough out. He tends to have his moments, and he tends to, really be tough and good enough still with his skills, that he gets by. He's hard to put away. So that's something to be said. But, so I think this is a very impressive win from Haney. But I think it was impressive showing his boxing ability. I do understand, though, the other side of it where, don't you want to, or don't you feel the need to make a big impression, though, with your win? Don't you feel the need to get a knockout or at least several knockdowns, or be able to hurt your opponent, though? Even if you're winning every round, you're not going to be able to treat these higher tier guys in your division like you did Gamboa, So people wanted to be more impressed. And then it doesn't help, I have to say, it doesn't help that Devin Haney goes out after the win and is calling out Teofimo Lopez and just like, let's unify the belts and this and that. I mean, that's too soon for me. That's such a difference in level of competition right there. Gamboa is a good win. We're on a good path here with Devin Haney. I think he just needs to complete it. He needs to keep going, and then he'll get there, because I think he will beat these other guys on his way up. I think he definitely gets fights with these kind of fighters eventually, that we want to see him against. But it just takes time, like everything else in life. All right. So then real quick, also, I didn't know even that this fight was happening until I was texted by a friend of mine the very night that it was happening. But Luis King Kong Ortiz fought a guy named Flores, who I'm not too familiar with. But Ortiz, very good heavyweight, in that mix, gave Deontay Wilder problems in both their fights until he was just taken out of there by Deontay Wilder's ridiculous power. But Luis Ortiz, takes on Flores, and this is a real quick one. No round for round breakdown here. Ding, first round, he comes out and he tummies him, guys. He throws 3 punches, his opponent throws none. And in 3 punches, one was to the head, or it really just looked like 2 punches, and then one went down to the body. And Flores had his guard up by his ribs, but the shot went just around his arm to touch his body and drops him. He's thriving in pain. The fight's over as soon as it starts. This is impressive. Again, one, I don't really know who Flores is, and that, maybe I should. I'll check him out. Now that I've heard his name, I've seen him, I'll check out his next fight. That's kind of how that works for anybody. But, even real boxing fanatics like myself, that's just how it works. There's a lot of boxers out there. So, but I don't know him, so he's not a huge name, right? This isn't just some crazy guy that I didn't know about. There's a reason for that. He's not the biggest name to fight, obviously. But Ortiz, deserves this, because this isn't that scenario that we talk about where we want to see the best versus the best. We've already got that with Ortiz, and he's coming off 2 back-to-back losses to Deontay Wilder. So this isn't, it's not about a give me fight, but he needs some fight. Plus Luis Ortiz is older, he's past 40 years old. So, this is an older fighter as well. He's coming off those 2 back-to-back losses to one of the best in the world. And, so he needed a fight like this. But even though this isn't an impressive name to beat, this is an impressive win, man. It's just as soon as the fight started, he took him out of there. And also, I want you guys to understand, I joke about, tummy Tom, and I'm a sucker for the body shots, and I am, but we joke around, but I want you guys to understand that when anybody, especially at heavyweight, but even at the lower weight, like anybody could get caught with a shot, that knocks them out. But these are headshots, and obviously it's common sense. The reason that can just knock anybody out is because that's where your brain is. So if your brain gets rattled by some shot you didn't expect, or just an incredibly hard shot, or both, that's what happens. It turns the lights off, for a second. And that's how that happens. With the body, it's not a person just walking down the street or your average Joe. These are professional boxers, and their whole life is training. With the body, you have to protect your body, and it can be very vulnerable. But the thing is, even at heavyweight, like, you need usually a couple shots. Working the body is something that you do round over round, and you slowly, progressively put in work on the body. You accumulate shots to the body until the body gives out. Do you understand? So, like, just, touching a guy to the body one good time. And mind you, I want to go back and see this, but I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong here. I'm pretty sure that it was a right hand to the body. So what that means is that is not a liver shot. Because if it was a liver shot, it needs to be thrown with the left hand, because the liver is on the right side of the body. So the only way to get a liver shot is throwing that left hand to the right side of the body. This was a right hand to the left side of the body. So, because the liver shot can take someone out right away if it's hit just right, and whatnot. But this wasn't even that either. So the absurdity of this is really just, it stands out. It was really great and impressive win for Ortiz. And now I'll just real quick we'll jump into, I might do some more this week, hopefully, as long as everything goes well with getting the video up and whatnot. I might do another one later on this week, but I did want to touch on, either way, we'll start touching on right now for this huge fight in boxing that's coming up for this Saturday. On ESPN Plus, Top Rank Boxing under Bob Arum. This will be, I believe, Terrence Crawford's last fight in or under that Top Rank umbrella with Bob Arum. And Terrence Crawford is on everyone's pound for pound list. Your list don't count if it don't got Terrence Crawford on it, point blank period. There's no way to not put him on there. And most people, I am not personally one of these people, but I definitely respect it. Most people have him as number one pound for pound. And so this is, to most people, the number one pound for pound fighter in the world in any weight class boxing today that is going to fight this Saturday in Terrence Crawford. And I am very pleased to say, will be fighting Kell Brook. For those of you who don't know who Kell Brook is, Kell Brook is, first off, an amazing fighter out of England. Okay, Kell Brook trained with Prince Nassim and came from that whole camp. Kell Brook went up 2 weight classes to middleweight to take on Triple G, the legend, when Triple G had just put everyone away, bullied them around the ring, knocked them down several times, and knocked them out. And Kell Brook, being a smaller welterweight, moves up 2 weight classes to middleweight to take on Triple G, and he almost runs away with that fight. He put on an incredibly impressive performance against Triple G. Kell Brook also has a win over Sean Porter, which is one of the most impressive people to get a win over in the welterweight division. That is one of the reasons, as I mentioned, that I give Errol Spence such praise and hold him at such a high esteem, is because, among other people, he has a win over Sean Porter. So Kell Brook gave Triple G a lot of problems. He's got a win over Sean Porter, and he also had an incredible fight with, again, that I just talked about. Kell Brook also had an incredible fight with Errol Spence. That was incredibly close and very back and forth until it was stopped very late in the fight because of a cut over Kell Brook's eye. And he just never gives up, but he's not just that and tough and, it'll be fun to watch. He's a phenomenal boxer. Here's another really cool thing to be excited for as the lights go out. Very nice. Let's do that. Welcome back to Boxing, fight fans and fanettes. All right, so anyways, Kell Brook is an amazing fighter. Here's another thing to be excited about that fight in particular, is that, so Terrence Crawford has an incredibly long laundry list of talent, right? Of different talents, of different tools, different shots to throw, different tricks of the trade. He figures guys out. He's incredibly athletic. The list goes on and on for him. So he's by no means a one-trick pony, but one of his biggest tricks that he does use, that he very much throws people off with when he goes into a fight, is that he's an incredibly good switch hitter. He can fight from orthodox or southpaw. And not only can he do that, but he'll fight for one for a little or switch it. He can literally switch hit where he is fighting an orthodox for a sec, and then while in the middle of a combination, he can switch stances and make his opposite hand that you don't think is his power shot now his power hand. If I'm an orthodox fighter and I'm jabbing you with my left hand and I'm cocking my right hand back because that's my power shot, because my left foot is forward and I'm throwing these jabs, and then I step my right foot forward in front of my left foot and I continue one last jab with the right hand, now my left hand is my power hand. It's an incredibly hard thing to do, though, so much harder than it sounds to properly switch hit in the midst of a combination. Even professional boxers, most of them cannot actually do this effectively, and that's why you don't see it done. But that being said, as I mentioned, Kell Brook comes from the camp with Prince Nassim, the legendary Prince Nassim, who, I wasn't the biggest fan of the guy, but what an incredible boxer, though. A little salty that he took that loss and then just left. But either way, he was an incredible switch hitter. That was his whole thing, was rapid pace and rapid firing in a combination, switching stances to confuse their opponent, where you're prepared to, when someone enters into the pocket and they're right up there with their head in your chest and gonna throw a combination. If they're an orthodox fighter, you block both sides of you, but you are looking out for that right hand over the top to your head. And then you're also trying to protect from that right from the body. And if you have to pick a side, which you do, you try to protect your left, but you pick that right side. It's incredibly difficult to deal with a guy who's able to switch stances when you've already, hunkered your feet down and your balance and chose to guard up for a second. And you don't realize that they're switching stances to where now you should be worried about their left hand or vice versa, So Prince Nassim was fantastic in doing this, and he trained with Kell Brook all the time. They come from that same camp. So Kell Brook is very used to seeing this switch hitting stance. Not used to it, even better. Not used to it in the sense of, he had a tough fight with a switch hitter, right? It's literally that he's incredibly used to it, because it's better than having even one professional fight that counts with another boxer, is having that athlete in your camp and you train with him or her day in and day out, right? That's will make you 10 times more actually used to dealing with that style. And so I believe that he is. Now, I'm going to give my prediction, and it's not necessarily backtracking. I'm telling you that's why you should be excited about the fight, because Kell Brook really does have a shot here. Now, Terrence Crawford is over a minus 1,000 favorite. It's ridiculous. At least a couple days ago he was. And that's absurd to me. I don't think it should be anywhere close to that. I think that is complete disrespect to Kell Brook, who I believe will put on an amazing performance, because I know 100% that he sees the importance in this opportunity. I know that he will give his all to seize this opportunity. And I think he has so much talent that it is even possible for him to do that, literally. But I think no matter what, even if he loses, he's taken rounds away from Terrence Crawford. Here's my prediction for the fight. I think that he takes some of these rounds away from Terrence Crawford, even, the early rounds there. I think he steals a couple of these from Crawford. And I think that he gives Crawford, I don't think he drops Crawford or severely hurts him, but I think that it's very possible he could even, slightly hurt Crawford, wobble him. I think that you see moments from Kell Brook, especially in these early to mid rounds, where he takes some rounds away and it is making the fight incredibly competitive. That being said, I think that over time, that Terrence Crawford will figure him out. I think Terrence Crawford will come into this as he does, being the incredible boxer that he is, and put on a hell of a performance. But I think that in his mind, not that he's overlooking Kell Brook, but I just think that his faith in his abilities and what he's usually able to do to guys, this is his biggest challenge. This is, again, with the thing with Terrence Crawford, people put him as pound for pound one. That's very possible. Most people have him there. I don't have him at number one, though, because of, again, that, as far as the talent that you can see, what a guy shows, and just overall how good they look, and when you think of them matched up against other people, how would somebody beat this guy? I'm right on board. I think Terrence Crawford could be, that's how that's what I I based my list on, I'd base him at number 1. But again, I put a lot of emphasis on the fact of who have you fought and your level of competition that you've actually faced already. And Terrence Crawford is a little bit not to his fault at all, really probably more to Bob Arum and Top Rank's fault, and the goddamn promotion issues in boxing of dealing with other promoters and not being scared to risk, an L of one of your athletes taking an L in the ring is just ridiculous. But so this is no fault of Terrence's, but I think that he's lacking in this, even though he doesn't want to be, in the fact of who he's actually fought before. And Kell Brook is not. Kell Brook's been in there with the best of the best in that division. And he's, I think he'll put on a hell of a performance. But I think Terrence will come out and expect to do these things that have worked for him, that he's been able to probably not ever have to give all of himself to win a fight yet. He's just so talented, and he's so athletic that he's never had to, not even give all of himself, but I would bet that he's never even had to dig deep at all, or faced real adversity yet in the ring, because he just overwhelms people. He dominates and wins, by far majority of the rounds in all of his fights. And I think this one will be different. I think that there's a definite moment or two in this fight where you see, where you go, oh boy, Terrence Crawford should maybe be a little bit worried here, because he'll be losing some rounds, and you'll see Kell Brook having some good moments that kind of throws Terrence Crawford off for a moment. But then I think that Terrence Crawford does have to dig deep, and that he will resort to the other tools in his arsenal that he possesses, defensively and offensively, and he will figure out Kell Brook and take back those later rounds. That's how I see the fight going on, and my pick is Terrence Crawford for that fight. But definitely go check that fight out. And we will see you next time here on Boxing. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank all you guys for asking, even about, talking to me and asking when I've seen a lot of you guys and through text messages and so on, about saying, hey, where's the videos and whatnot. I really appreciate that you guys are watching these. I love doing these, especially if I know people just get any sort of enjoyment or knowledge out of watching them. That means a lot to me, honestly. So thank you guys very much. We'll see you next time here on Boxing. And don't worry, because we're back, and we're back with a vengeance. You guys are going to get loads full of tummy tucking this week, okay? And next week. We're not going anywhere. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the fights, my friends.